Fingers crossed that fingers crossed that we have enough bandwidth in my phone to do this. And on that note, I want to welcome everybody to the world according to that man, Benjamin Jeremy Stein. And I want to welcome everybody to the Saturday night special. And I want to give everybody a heads up. The internet for Spectrum in most of Los Angeles is out. So if, sorry?
We don't know why.
We don't know why. And if you could speak up a little bit, Ben.
We don't know why. We do not know why.
We don't know why. And, but so if we break up, we break up. There's nothing we could do about that. We will do our best to soldier on and carry on like the
well put, sir. Well put, sir.
Like the patriots we are. But I want to welcome everybody that's in the chat. I want to thank everybody for downloading the show, and also remind everybody, please download the show. Even if you listen to it here, it means a lot to us, and we love those pithy comments. We're joined tonight from his love boat, Gary, the simplelifenow.com founder. Collins, welcome as always, Gary.
Thank you for having me on yet again. You have not kicked me
We
out
love
yet,
seeing
so
you
that's a
here,
good
Gary.
sign.
God bless you, sir.
We
God
do love
bless
seeing
you,
you here,
Ben.
Gary. And if Gary, I can't tell if it's my volume or whatever, but this is going to be a totally whack thing. If Ben could hear you, that means that everybody can hear you.
I hear you fine, Gary. I hear you fine.
Perfect. And of course, this show would not be complete without a writer, actor, lawyer, provocateur, saint, sinner, caregiver, husband, father, grandfather, economist, statistician, mathematician, but of course, most importantly, Dr. Benjamin Jeremy Stein. We salute you, sir.
God bless you, sir.
And I want to welcome everybody to the Saturday night special, but I also want to remind people, people often ask, what's Ben Stein like, Gary Collins? Who is Ben Stein? That is the title of tonight's show. Will the real Ben Stein please stand up? But who is Ben Stein? And I want to tell you, this is a true story. My parents are the greatest parents in the world. I love them with all my life. They've done whatever they could for me, but Ben and his wife, since I've moved to Los Angeles through thick and thin, have always stood by me and supported me and done whatever they could to help me, help my career. But most importantly, they've loved me. And there's a true story. I was supposed to go golfing tomorrow. I know everybody looks at me, Gary, as a golfer. But my friend roped me in to go golfing. And Ben was kind enough, because he has he's got membership fees to a golf course in Rancho Mirage, where it's about 115 degrees.
Yeah, it's a very nice golf course.
Very nice golf course where they have LPGA, and it's about 115 degrees there, Gary. And I was going to go there in the morning with my friend, and Ben's like, I don't think you should do it. Like, I heavily suggest you don't go golfing tomorrow morning. It's dangerous. I don't think you should do it. And I tried, and he was adamant about it. And like a good,
and I was right too. I was right.
Sorry?
I was right.
You were completely right. You were completely right. And that's who Ben Stein is. A loving, caring human, and who I would probably be dead tomorrow with heat stroke and sun poisoning if I didn't listen to this man that truly cares about me. So to everybody out there, that's Ben Stein.
Well, God bless you. Note, God bless you. God bless you, sir. God bless you, sir.
God bless you. And on that note, I wanted to do the show a little light tonight. I wanted to do the show a little heavy, but
wait,
Wait.
Because I'm the old man here. I believe I have a news bulletin in here that you guys don't know about, because I haven't even told you that about this. And I think it's pretty good. It's pretty damn good. Ready? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Get ready. Today, I was driving out to the Nixon Library for a celebration of the 50th wedding anniversary of Tricia Nixon Cox and her husband, Ed Cox. And I was being driven out there by a very, very wonderful guy who drives me, and is a very, very, very good driver and a very sensible guy. And I said, let's try something. And I picked up my phone and I said, hey, Siri, do Black Lives Matter?
Yes, Black Lives Matter.
And the voice said, yes, Black Lives Matter. Then I picked up the phone and I said, do White Lives Matter? And it didn't say, yes, white lives matter. It said, well, there's an article about that. And then I picked one up and I said, hey, Siri, does human life matter? And Siri said, well, in the context of the size and scope of the universe, really human life is pointless. Then I went back and I said, do Black lives still matter? Yes, Black lives matter. So according to Siri, and I don't know who Siri works for. I think Siri works for, who does Siri work for? I'm not sure. Siri works for some gigantic company. According to Siri, Black lives matter, but human life, maybe yes, maybe no. So I thought you might want to know that George Orwell got all right. We're just pawns in their game. And the pig power structure is just beating the crap out of us night and day. Now you know.
Now you know the rest of the story, Gary Collins.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was, I'm not shocked, to be honest.
You're not
the
shocked.
US.
Come on, tell the truth.
No,
You're not shocked.
no, I'm not shocked by anything anymore. I mean, the US has the most violent cities in the world. So what else? How could I be shocked?
Oh, wait a minute, wait
I
a
mean,
minute, wait a minute. You think that the US cities are more violent than, say, Monrovia, Liberia?
Yes, they, by the way, just so you know, Baltimore was
Statistically, they are.
rated the other day as, I believe, more dangerous than Honduras.
Oh my
And
God.
and
Judah, please tell me you're kidding.
I swear, Ben, I wouldn't make a story like that up. There was like two places that are known for their violence, so much so that 37 businesses, Gary, in the city of Baltimore said they will stop paying taxes. They're just done if the police can't do this. They apologized for having to beg for protection, and they apologized. They said for the least the police could do is, like, keep traffic enforcement up, which they're not even doing in Baltimore, Gary.
Well, wait, I'm sorry, I have to butt in again. All right, no, Gary, I beg your pardon, I don't want to butt in. Go ahead, Gary. Go ahead, Gary.
oh, no, go ahead, Ben. I
No,
was waiting.
I was just saying, I grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland, which is right down Highway 29 from Baltimore, Maryland. And that was a long time ago, before they built all the giant freeways and these circumferential highways that were, you'd go out Colesville Road, take you basically straight to Baltimore. Baltimore was then almost 100% white. It was famous for being incredibly neat and clean. And the residents were out there scrubbing the stoops in front of their houses day and night. And although they were working class people, they were not rich people. It was the cleanest city in America. It's changed. Now, let's see, what about it has changed? I don't know, but Black Lives Matter.
So let Gary get back to it, because I'm curious to know his thoughts on it. Somebody that served this country to protect it from foreign and abroad, what his thoughts on this are.
Well, yeah, and you mean San Salvador, actually the home of MS-13. That's Baltimore's more violent than San Salvador of El Salvador, the home of MS-13, the most violent gang in the world. Holy shit. And no one says a word.
And the state of Maryland is run by Democrats, and nobody knows.
Well, the most violent cities in the US are all run by Democrats. Austin is now, after the influx, having huge crime problems, violent crime at that. Go figure. Just, I won't say who just moved there. Maybe you don't want to move where he lives.
No, you can say it. Illegal immigrants.
No, it's an individual. But, it's funny because I always knew Austin was kind of all the progressive Hollywood types and authors all moved to Austin. I just find it fascinating. Now Austin's having all these crime problems. So it's fascinating to me to see this. But me and a good friend of mine who's also a veteran, last night we were having dinner, me, him, and his wife. And we were talking about how proud we used to be of our country and that the flag meant something. And it's starting for us. it's starting to diminish, and that's worrying me. I'm worried. Probably, the most worried I've ever been in my life of where we're going and what's going on. And I don't really know what the answer
Couldn't
is.
agree more. Couldn't agree more. It's scary. And today I was at a party out in a suburb of LA, way far out, called Yorba Linda. It's famous because it's where Richard Nixon grew up. And there was a party at the Nixon Library celebrating the 50th anniversary of the wedding of Tricia Nixon Cox and Ed Cox. Both of them were there, looking great. And there was perfect safety, perfect calm. Guess what? No diversity. Perfect safety, perfect calm, no diversity. I think there's a connection there. And I would like to say, yes, I welcome diversity, but since when has it become a virtue to have diversity that leads to crime?
Well, my problem with diversity is that I grew up in a town, half Indian reservation, poor white people. And my thing is,
Jeff, can I get
about diversity is when it's forced. That's
Yeah,
my problem.
yes.
When they tell you must have a diverse neighborhood. No, I don't. I pay the taxes. I bought the house. Shut up. I will live where I want to live. I will associate with the people I want to associate with. If whoever I decide to associate with is my choice.
Right.
Period.
See,
and that's the part I can't believe. Yeah.
In this town, this glorious town of LA, center of the universe, there is a person named Maxine Waters. She is a high-ranking city official. She's a woman of African-American extraction. And she and I'm sure she doesn't even know I exist, but she and I have been crossing swords since 1977, when I started being a columnist for the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, which no longer exists. And she and I fought almost daily in the columns about school busing. And she was in favor of compulsory school busing. And I would say, what good is it going to do? I don't believe Black people are unable to learn unless they're sitting next to white people. There are Frederick Douglass, one of the greatest orators in American history, freed slave from the eastern shore of Chesapeake Bay in Maryland, was one of the great orators and scholars in the English language. He was 100% Black. Well, he was mostly Black anyway. And he didn't have to learn by sitting next to white people. Why do today's Black people have to learn by sitting next to white people? That is insulting to Black people. It's insulting to white people. It insults the Constitution. Why do we have forced diversity? And forced diversity is an outrage upon the Constitution. Diversity, great. Compulsory, bad.
Well, there's culture for a reason. You have a culture because it's a common belief system. And for people to associate with a culture and to be a part of a culture, that's their choice. That's their thing. To force cultures upon each other is only to create chaos.
Right.
Humans are tribal,
tribal
creatures. We associate with groups we trust and associate with. Forcing it is insane. It's like me taking my dogs out and saying, you know what, you're going to have to hang out with the coyotes, bobcats, and wolves now, and you're going to like it.
Jeff,
and it's going to turn into an absolute shit show. Everything's going to be dead in the end. So
yeah, exactly right. What there was a incredibly great episode of I can't remember whether it was Ren and Stimpy or whether it was that great show with Matt and Trey. What's it called? That fabulous, unbelievably good show on Comedy Central. Anyway, and they said, what if all the different animal species on the planet had to associate with every other species? It wouldn't work very well. Okay, we humans should not have to be forced to associate with anybody that we don't want to associate with. That seems basic. Of course, there must never be legally enforceable segregation or degradation of one race by another. That must never happen. But to compel people to hang around with people that they don't want to hang around with, that is dictatorship. That is not freedom. That is dictatorship. I don't want to be compelled to hang around with people I don't want to be with. I don't want people to be compelled to hang around with me if they don't want to. I several years ago, a wonderful woman named Barbara Duke, a wonderful woman from Midland, Texas, long time family friend of my wife's, asked us, my wife and me, to become members of a country club in the desert called El Dorado. And it's a club that has one of the most beautiful clubhouses in the world. And I said, I would love to be a member just to be able to be in this clubhouse occasionally. I said, I get plenty of food. I'm not worried about the food. I don't play golf, but I just love the architecture of this clubhouse. So Miss Duke sent in a petition with 10 members' names on it to get me to be a member. I was blackballed by somebody who apparently just lives right down the street from me in Beverly Hills, by the way, because I'm Jewish. Now, they said it's because he's in show business. Well, that's a clear lie, because obviously they would have taken Ronald Reagan, but I was blackballed. Okay, I didn't like it, hurt my feelings, but I would rather have them have the right to do that than for them to be compelled to take someone that they don't want as a member. That's just, it isn't right to compel people to associate with people they don't want to be associated with.
You know, you raise a great point. I want to get into it. If you just tuned in, you are listening to The World According to Ben Stein. I apologize if there's any technical issues on other people's ends, but Spectrum is down in most of Los Angeles. So this show is being done via a hotspot, and it's actually really hot in here. But I want to thank everybody that's been listening and downloading the podcast, and for all your comments. Of course, Gary Collins from thesimplelifenow.com is with us tonight. Of course, Ben Stein. But you touch on something interesting, and I want to just take it a different gear in a different way. I don't just believe it's a race thing anymore. I think we have to. It's not just a race thing.
We have to. Not a race thing.
We have to enjoy, Ben, everything everybody feeds us. Which is, you know, Gary and I, who are like the single in the bunch, in the dating pool, we all have to agree with each other. We all have to be vaccinated. We all have to like the same type of music. We all, it's a very weird thing that, and I brought this up, Ben, there is no more yin and yang anymore. You enjoy doing something. It doesn't mean wifey has to enjoy it. It doesn't mean you have to force her to enjoy it. You enjoy doing your thing. She enjoys doing her thing. What happened to the days when we were allowed to enjoy our own thing?
Well, I agree. I'd like to go back to the beginning of your little speech here, your excellent, fine speech, and say it isn't about race. Law and order is not about race. Keeping your street clean is not about race. Not murdering people is not about race. I would incomparably rather live with an African American who had the same idea about being neat and clean and not making too much noise as with a person who's a Mayflower descendant who makes too much noise. I give you an example. I keep at a very, very nice condo building in West Hollywood, a couple of apartments that I use just for resting and brooding and studying and reading. And I used to live right across the hall from one of the Isley Brothers. And that's a huge name in rock and roll, twist and shout. Isley Brothers, huge name in rock and roll. He was incredibly pleasant, unbelievably pleasant, nice guy, way more civilized and cultured than I am. Unfortunately, he sold his condo and moved out. Across the hall from me now are some major league dope smokers who just fill the hall with dope, and it's disgusting. And they're white, and they make me sick. Now, I would much rather be around any well-behaved person of any race than any badly behaved person of any race. It's not about race at all. It's about behavior, 100%.
Yeah, it's people you get along with. I mean, that's the whole point of
we do not want to be
states
forced
you
to
live in.
people we don't get along. Years and years ago, and I mean years ago, I had the incredible pleasure of spending a whole year sitting in on the classes of a very, very fine, extremely fine teacher named Carol Spector at Birmingham High School in the Valley. I don't know whether it's Van Nuys or Sherman Oaks. I think sort of on the borderline. And it was a great school. Almost everybody got along with everybody else. Then, and kids went on to great schools, great colleges, great school. Then along came Maxine Waters and her pals, and they had forced busing. Forced busing to me sounds too much like forced enema, and I don't like it. And I think the school was ruined by this forced enema that they called forced busing. And now that school is a ghost town. Very few of its students graduate. Almost none of them go to prestige colleges. This is what I've been told. I may be wrong. All because of forced mixing. And again, too much like a forced enema.
I've never heard that term before. And I forgot to say before when you were referring to Maxine Waters and you said you guys have crossed swords. It's usually a reference to something else, but in Maxine's Waters
No,
case,
it means argue. I've argued.
I know, but it is also a different meaning for some. And by the way, Doug, and to Doug in the chat, it's all good what you do in Zoom, as long as you're not doing it for work or publicly. Whatever you want to do in Zoom, enjoy your bad selves. Just don't tube in it in public during work hours. But Gary, he brings up a great point. This idea of us, there being this forced friendships, this forced, which is not real. You can't force somebody to like something they don't like, to be attracted to something they're not attracted to. It's like, and then actually have that question. If you say we're both single, and you say I'm not attracted to Black women, Ben, is that considered racist?
I'm sorry, say again.
They would consider if Gary or I said we're not attracted to Black women, racist.
No,
and
that's
you can't.
not, if you were to say, take three women, one is white, one is Asian, and one is Black. They all have the same, they all from a distance look identical. They all have identical scores on the math SATs, and they all are well-dressed and neat and clean and pleasant and keep their houses clean and neat. But I am not going to associate with the one who's Black just because she's Black. That's racism. If you have some other reason for not wanting to associate that has nothing to do with race, then that's not racism.
I was strictly referring to dating, where anything
No,
you
I
say
am talking about dating. I mean, but if you are, I've never been on an internet dating site, so I don't know. I'm old. My wife and I have been married since 1968. We didn't know about things like that, but we didn't know about computers really. So what I'm saying is, if you make your dating choice on the basis of race and not on the basis of something like how good is she in math, how good is she in American political culture, then that's racism. But if you make your choice based on something real and sensible, like knowledge or politeness or manners, or that's not racism, not even slightly.
No, but Gary, getting back to it, we're attracted to a lot of men like blonde-haired women, a lot of men like brunettes, some are chubby chasers, some are,
what is that phrase, chubby chasers?
A chubby chaser, you like a girl that's a little svelte, and a woman that's a little svelte, and you can't help what you're attracted to. But because you're not attracted to that person, it doesn't make you a racist. It doesn't make you an anti-brunette, or it doesn't make you. It's this fascinating thing that we all have to like the same thing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well,
crazy.
It's collectivism. That's what collectivism is about, is making everyone the same. Once you get rid of identity, individual identity, you get rid of free will. Now that's the point. They want everyone to be the same. That's the whole goal. Because once you eradicate individuality and differences, now you can rule the roost, because no one's going to break out because everyone's exactly the same.
And that's especially. Sorry, Gary, go ahead. I beg your pardon.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
And what I was going to say is, this is especially true in the era of masking, where we cannot even see what people look like. We just see a piece of plastic or cotton or whatever it is in front of their face, so we can't see what they're like at all. So this to me is what as dangerous can be. We cannot see a person's face and features and eyes and know something about that person. For all of human history, we have judged people largely on the basis of what their face looks like. Now we're told we can't do that. That is a real serious attack upon the human person.
Well, and it was,
Very
that's
interesting.
when you think about it, it was a very easy way for them to eliminate individuality, put everyone in a mask, right?
Yeah,
Now
absolutely.
everyone's the same. And it's hard to get in the mind of a sociopathic socialist. It really is. But their thought process is so different from ours that it's kind of interesting that most people today, I've noticed that people like us, the hardworking, you know, people who do the right thing, bust their butt, they're the most worried. But everyone else is just living in bliss. Everyone else you talk to them, they don't know what's going on. They're all stimulus checks, man. I'm making 110 grand to stay at home. This is awesome.
Awesome and terrifying. And when I go into, I shop a great deal at a store called The Vintage, which is a very, very nice store in Malibu. And I shop a great deal at Pavilions, which is here in West Hollywood. It's a wonderful, wonderful store to go into. I used to consider that the equivalent of going to a dance or a record hop or something from my youth, because I could look at people's faces. Now I can't. All I can look at is their goddamn masks. It's no longer fun. It's torture. I learn more about the piece of fish I'm buying than I do about the people I'm shopping near.
Well, and they're all
And you're vaccinated.
And I'm vaccinated twice. I mean, the first.
Okay, so here's a better question. I want to ask you this both. Okay, so you're both bringing up great points. I was looking at AMC movie theater, right? And you know, so in Los Angeles, we're still under pretty much for major events lockdown, or a few thousand maybe allowed in. So I was looking at tickets, and it said on the thing, if you're vaccinated and you show your card, you don't have to wear a mask during the movie, or you're allowed in, I think even. I'm not sure which one it was, but if you're not vaccinated, you can't get in. And Ben, I really start thinking that we're down a slippery slope of selexia. And for us Jews, that is one of the scariest words in the world. And both of us are vaccinated. So whether we did it stupidly or not, but the point being is, what does it matter to us if others aren't at this point? And that word selection, Ben, is terrifying.
It's terrifying. The selection, just for those of you who don't know, the selection was when the Jews were thrown off of the cattle cars at the concentration camps, and the Gestapo or SS doctor, not a real serious doctor like Dr. Jill Biden, but a medical doctor, would point at some of them with a crop, winding crop, left die, right live, to be worked to death. I don't like that selection. That's why I keep saying, when I did my movie, or helped do a movie called Expelled, when people say science, they expect me to bow down. No, not going to bow down. Science was what they were using to kill my relatives in Europe under Hitler. I'm sorry, science to me has no magic. Science has many, many good things, but it can, the use of the word science can also mean terrible, terrible things.
It could also create nuclear weapons. I mean,
oh yes, exactly. And by the way, just so you know, the idea that we're going to let Iran get nuclear weapons and trust them not to use them is so horrifying. There are no words to describe it, and it's not going to happen. I mean, Israel, no matter what their extreme internal political confusion, is not going to let Iran get the nuclear bomb. At least I hope not. I sincerely hope not.
Oh, just so you know, it was the anniversary 40 years ago, a few days ago, of when Israel took out Iraq's nuclear site. So that was 40 years ago to the day, a few days ago. And I want to make a comment.
And Reagan applauded. Reagan applauded that.
Yeah, and I want to bring up something. Well, thank God. And I want to bring up something Brady said in the chat. Is actually funny. He said, if you like blondes, obviously you're limiting yourself to a certain race. And I just thought that was a very pithy and funny comment, Brady. So good for you. Great comment.
Well,
and I'm actually
in Los Angeles, there are a lot of African American women who dye their hair blonde. So there you are.
Yes. Okay, let's just get off that topic. And on that note, if you just tuned in, you are You are
Why
listening to the
get off
world.
that topic? That's the topic that's on Americans' minds today is race. And race is a huge, huge topic. It's incredibly important that we handle it right and handle it sensibly and don't use it as a crowbar to pry America into dictatorship.
I think, Gary, we've crossed the point. We've passed that point, and I don't think there's coming back. You still turn on Amazon, you still turn on all of these things. You with Postmates, with Uber Eats, you have all these things. Support Black businesses. On the Amazon or Netflix, you get the heavy movie suggestions of Black movies of the month. We're past the point of. And I don't know who they're preaching to be honest with you. I would consider it an insult if they did that to me, Gary.
Yeah, could you imagine everything you watched was just white people? It would be, that's crazy to me. And for me, hey, I'm going to go out on a limb here, guys. I'm going to prove a very valid point. I have dated Native American women, Indian women, Middle Eastern women, Jewish women, white women, Black women, Asian women, Hispanic women. I think I might be missing a couple. I've dated them all. And I'll tell you what, there's no one that ranks higher than the other at all. As far as race, I don't care. I like beautiful women who are smart. That's all I like. I don't care. And the fact that, that race is everything, it's just scary because things are so off the rails to me. And the Americans are just following blindly, and the majority of Americans aren't questioning anything. And the cruise, they had the first cruise. Well, everyone had to show their vaccination is all vaccinated. Well, 2 people came down with COVID who were vaccinated. It's like, oh Jesus criminy, and this COVID thing is just keeps going.
Let me tell you something. If you're on a cruise ship, the least of your worries sometimes is COVID. Okay.
Yeah,
I could think of a million worse things that could happen on a cruise. You never hear great stories. There's always the few that love the cruise, but there's always a bunch of people that got sick on the cruise. Somebody got lost at sea. And here's a tip: since Ben and I both love forensic files, if you're having marital problems, don't go on a cruise together. Yeah. It's probably not a great.
Awesome.
It's probably.
I think I've
not
watched
a great
every
idea.
episode.
Yeah, me too.
We love that
and
show. We love that show.
And as Rock Breath brought up, it is not Black Month or it's not African American Month, History Month. It is LGBTQ Month.
Okay, now I have to ask. L, lesbian. B, yeah. I don't know what that means. Black or bi? What does B stand for?
No, it's LGBTQ. Okay, so it's lesbian.
L is lesbian. G is gay.
B is bisexual.
What's that?
Q. It's funny, Ben. I don't know what it means either. I have no idea.
C is transsexual. I don't know what that means. And Q is queer. And what is the difference between queer and homosexual?
Well, here's something I think you guys will find.
Well, queer used to be offensive, by the way. That's the funny thing. Queer used to be offensive. Now it's acceptable.
I don't know.
Well, depending who you are. But Ben, I was in Idaho getting. I was going to get a full physical. It did not go that way. I went in, and I'm telling you, our medical system is out of control. So I hadn't seen a doctor for a while. Besides other stuff that I've had to have done, but going for a physical, I hadn't done it in 3 years. I go in, the form, they say you need to fill out new forms. The forms ask sexual identity. They ask what pronoun I wish to be addressed by. Do I have? Yeah. And so then I'm already pissed off, right? And I have to wear a mask, and I'm in Idaho. And I'm all,
by the way, they stole that form from my dating app.
That's funny, Drew. That's very funny.
Well, what they're doing, what I realized halfway through this thing, and when I got in the physical, is their data mine. So the doctor at some point, their data mine. This stuff is going back into a database. They are fully capturing this information. And so my doctor out of nowhere goes, "Oh, so have you been vaccinated?" And I go, "No." "Do you plan to get vaccinated?" I go, "No." "Oh shit." And I caught it right as I said it. And I went, and he's at the computer putting it in. And I was like, oh, now I'm in a database. So now they're going to go hunt Gary at some point, I guess. And
well, they're going to hunt you for many other reasons other than
other
that.
reasons. And I say, knock yourself out. I live at the top of a mountain and I'm good shot.
Okay, but I want to bring something
yeah.
up quickly. I want to bring something up quickly, and I had no idea of this, Ben. I didn't say quickly that quickly. If you just tuned in, you are listening to The World According to that man, Benjamin Jeremy Stein. I want to thank everybody in the YouTube chat. Obviously, I am reading your chats and I am reading your comments. They're quite funny. Somebody said the Q they thought was for questioning. It could be. That's what they do to us. So you could be right.
I don't know. I asked the question because I don't know.
Perfectly said. And I want to welcome everybody back. And I want to thank everybody. Remind everybody, benstein.substack.com. If I seem a little off, it's because the room I'm in is 90 degrees. We have absolutely no internet.
For God's sake, why did
yeah, but it'll stifle the sound. Ben, don't worry about it. The air conditioning's not going to get into this closed room. But I want to welcome everybody back to The World According to Ben Stein. And there's something that is very interesting. They're not very interesting. It didn't get brought up. So there was a protester in France that slapped Macron the other day. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you see, though, that the person that did it has already been sentenced to 4 months in prison?
No. Wow. How can that be? How can they do that be?
That's exactly why I brought it up. That's everybody loves to complain about the legal system, Ben. And he was sentenced to 4 months in prison.
Well, that cannot be. I mean, how could they couldn't have given him a no, I can tell Judah's coming out here saying, take away my food. Oh, God, Judah, you are. Anyway, I imagine the French legal system is different from our legal system. They don't give people the same degree of legal protection we do in America. The French legal system, we used to just take aristocrats, put them on carts, and behead them at dawn. So that's a lot different from the American legal system.
Well, America's legal system right now is to release all violent felons. That
I
seems
know,
to be
I know,
the legal
without
system
even
right
having
now.
bail, without even having bail. I know, it's scary.
No, but I just love how everybody loves to bitch about our legal system and
I love our legal system.
And no due process and this and that. And this guy in France 3 days ago slapped the prime minister 4 days ago and was sentenced to 4 months in prison, 3 or 4 months in prison immediately. But the reason I bring that up, Ben, is because everybody always loves to use other countries. They love to, like, the left loves to use selective science, but they also love to use selective countries to bring up for success of certain things, right? So it could be medical care in other countries that are like, they could use whatever it is. They love to bring up other stuff. It's selective science, selective memory, and selective geography that the left has been.
I agree. But I cannot believe that story about Macron is correct. I mean, it takes time to find him a lawyer. It takes time for him to enter a plea. I mean, unless he already pleaded guilty. I mean, maybe, but even so, he has to have a lawyer who can argue with the judge about what the sentence should be. I mean, that story sounds very questionable.
It wasn't, and I would look it up. If somebody could find that story for me on YouTube, that would be great, because if I look it up, I might lose reception, and that's what we don't want here. We don't want to lose the Wi-Fi hotspot that talking to you through in this bunker.
My house.
But I want to also talk about something also funny, Gary and Ben, that I saw today. It was just these funny stories I saw this week. John Boehner, that jackass, was on a CNN show, and I'm not a big John Boehner fan, and sorry, Ben?
Kidding. Obviously, you don't like it.
He has a hell of a tan. He was on one of those shows, and they were saying that Trump, seriously, that Trump can't get over the 2020 election. And I'm thinking to myself, you couldn't get over an election for 4 years and 3 months. Trump can't get over the 2020 election, and you're accusing the lack of self-awareness, Ben, to say something like that is absolutely astounding.
Well, I don't know enough about Boehner to comment sensibly. I want to know, if I may, if any of our people in the chat have responded as to what Q means in LGBTQ.
Well, somebody said questioning. If you can in the chat, Rock Breath, somebody could find out what the Q means in LGBTQ. And I'm sure there'll be a few other letters
Name
added
is
to that.
Cuomo. It's Cuomo. I'm kidding. Okay. Let's go back to what we started the show with. Somebody at Verizon or whoever it is who owns Siri. Who owns Siri? Oh,
I believe it's
Apple.
Apple.
Somebody at Apple pays enough attention so one lone person called in and made them look like jackasses about Black Lives Matter as compared to all human lives matter. They were on it in a couple of hours, but they still didn't get it right. And they don't pronounce lives right. They have this Black Lives Matter. But everybody who's watching, if you feel like it,
Okay.
ask your computer, hey Siri, do Black Lives Matter? Absolutely yes. Do white
And I
lives
have the answers to our questions.
what?
So first off, it somebody wrote, it is queer and questioning. And Rock Breath wrote, a French court in Valence, how do you pronounce it? Valence, Valence, in southeast France, handed down an 18-month sentence with 14 months suspended. French television reported the court ordered the man to be imprisoned immediately, a particularly tough punishment in France, where defendants are often allowed to remain free while they appeal their sentence.
Wow.
I don't think it's bad that he was sentenced to that, but I mean, is there no due process? Is he not allowed to get a lawyer?
Well, apparently in France, I guess if you slap the prime minister, that's they don't want other people slapping.
I slap the prime minister. That's damn serious. But what about getting a lawyer? What about him handling a jury? That doesn't
there you are.
Maybe he said, "I don't care. It was worth it." Maybe,
yeah,
who knows?
No, he actually said he shouldn't have done it. He actually had a bit of where he said he shouldn't have done it or whatever his response is. I just still can't believe that he got sentenced that quickly when everybody loves to bitch and moan about our judicial system. Well, go to France and see what happens to you there. If you slap somebody, you could be in. You could.
Well, it's not Judah. It's not somebody. It's a premier.
Who's he? Yes, he's
He's a very important person.
Who we have the utmost respect for. But Ben, you raise a good point, and I want to get back to it. Yes, you're correct. If you ask Siri certain questions, Apple has obviously the other day, Bing and Google, Bing and I think Microsoft took off their search engines. What was it? Tank Boy, right? So it was the Tank Boy. It was
that phrase.
The Tiananmen Square. It was the person that got rolled over by the tank. That was what if
he wasn't rolled over. He stood in front of the tank, and the tank let him go.
Ran him over.
Oh, sorry. Yes. That's what they took down the reference to. So you cannot. They literally, Ben. So you can't even do a search on that. You can't. This is what we're dealing with. This is big tech, and the major problem is. The left, the Democrats want to break up big tech. And I'm always nervous when the Democrats want to do something because it's never for healthy or good reasons.
Well, I don't understand, frankly. Let's back up a little bit. I don't understand how on a Saturday, somebody at Apple got my question into their mind so quickly and then answer, but then they obviously didn't have it answered by somebody in America because they did not pronounce the word Lives correctly. So somehow they fed it into a word processing machine that doesn't know how to speak good English. And but I think maybe Judah, as brilliant as you are, maybe you have missed what I think is the key point. That when I ask the machine over and over again, does human life matter?
No, I understand. Yes.
It basically said no. But
I would imagine if you said the blue lives matter, it would come up with the same thing.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I asked about all different kinds of lives. The only ones that mattered were black.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying even if you ask the Blue Lives Matter, they put that in their system. Listen, this is what we're dealing with, and this is what we're up against. This is how powerful these minuscule organizations have been allowed to become. I mean, let's not forget, they don't represent most of our society. They just don't. Because if they represented this most of our society, as something I said before, and somebody brought up in the chat, everybody would be watching sports right now. Everybody would be watching the Oscars. Everybody would be watching TV. They're selling us shit that people don't want to buy. And they're willing, as you taught me the word fiduciary responsibility, Ben, they have zero fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders. And eventually it's got to break, because you can't keep wasting money on stuff people aren't consuming.
Well, except, wait a second, just a second. This is no longer an economic situation, Judah. This is now political dictatorship. I mean, how long did it take Soviet communism to break? Soviet communism took over in 1917. They were still murdering people en masse until the late 80s. And now it's a dictatorship again. That whole business about it becoming a free country just turned out to be a wish and a prayer. It's now a dictatorship again. So if it's a political dictatorship, it can last a very, very, very long time. George Orwell, the guy who really taught us all we need to know, said in 1984, he had O'Brien, a member of the Inner Party, say to Winston Smith, if you want a picture of the future of the human race, imagine a boot kicking a human face forever. That is what we're starting to see a little tiny bit of. Believe me, we're far from there now. I had a great day today with many, many old friends from the Nixon days out at the Nixon Library. But when I went into my phone and heard this horrible racial oppression nonsense, I really was terribly saddened by it.
Gary, it's a frightening thing.
It is. You're just lucky, Ben. Siri didn't respond. Ben Stein, you're a racist. And
no, wait.
It's a great point. That's actually funny, though, Ben.
I did ask it some questions and suggested some things it could do to itself, and it made very personal responses.
But Gary raises a point. I mean, obviously they've taken down, they used to, I mean, it was an old joke on when Siri first started, people were like, where can you bury a body? And it would literally give you places where you could bury a body, and they had to take down certain search words. But they obviously know where you are when they're tracking you at all times. I mean, that's just plain and simple. And they know who's asking these questions. And it's a really scary thing. I mean, these are jobs. These are people's livelihoods. These are people, these are a lot of things. And that you have to, Ben, you were sharing the other day, and you shared this, how scared it is sometimes that you think when you're in the car driving, and what you're speaking about. But what about when you're at home typing? We know that they do, obviously for pedophilia, for all these things, but at a certain point, they'll push as far as they can. And this too, your thoughts will be criminal. And it's very frightening, Ben, that you could be at home on AOL or Google or wherever you are, type something in, and to think, come and knock on my door, they'll be waiting for you.
It's extremely frightening, and the great terror is that this is going to be done by machines, like in that movie where the machines are fighting the other machines, and there's people are able to bend over and dodge bullets and so on. I forget what the movie is called. It's a very, very famous movie. But anyway, there's nothing I put past them at this point, and we're just seeing the beginning of it at this point. And oh my gosh, how I wish Mr. Trump had been elected. I don't think he would have put up with this, and I'm quite sure he wouldn't have put up with this. And I don't know where it ends, because as I've said many times on this fabulous forum, there is no end to the power of the media.
I know, and it's very hurtful, Gary. If only he had been elected, and the election, of course, there was nothing YouTube wrong with it. Joe Biden is our savior, our Lord, our Republican, the president of the world right now.
Player.
Yeah, but Gary, I mean, you talk about going off the grid. These are one of the things that, I mean, people are going to need to prepare for.
I don't know if you can even do that anymore. And I've talked about this because people always ask me why I went off the grid and was I trying to hide, disappear? And I went, no, I worked for the government. They know where I'm at. And the only way you can truly disappear is literally you have to pay for everything with cash. You can't cross in front of any cameras. You can't use a cell phone. You can't have any bank accounts. I mean, it's to the point where you're not going to disappear. Big Brother is there. They know what you're doing. They know what you're up to. If they want to figure it out and they want to get you, hate to break it to you, people, they'll get you. They have all of your information. They know where you're at.
Well,
They know what you do.
then I think in that case, I want to have several chocolate milkshakes tonight because I love chocolate milkshakes more than almost anything else in the world. And if I'm going to be taken away and shot, I want to have more milkshakes before they do.
Especially
I
with the
agree.
side effects that milkshakes give you. So that it would definitely be it would definitely be showing them. And if you just tuned in, you are listening to the World According to Ben Stein Saturday Night Special. We've had a whole bunch of technical issues. We've had issues because all of California spectrum is down. And it was funny though, before the show, when the internet was down, I just assumed, you always assumed it's just, Gary, where you are. You never assume the whole town is down. But what we were speaking about, remember a few weeks back, the live stream had been affected because YouTube's live stream. But the first thought we thought was, Gary, they've pulled the show. That was the first thought that went through our mind. And how unhealthy and scary is that type of thought, Ben Stein and Gary?
I'm sorry, but I will say again, something we've had the pleasure of discussing before, Judah, which is as I'm driving around here in Beverly Hills, and I won't live here much longer. I can't afford it forever. I see police cars, lights flashing. I'm always afraid they're coming after me for something I said on the air or wrote in my column in the American Spectator. And the fact that that's my life now is unfortunate. On my way over here today, I drove in front of a house, I'm guessing owned by Orthodox Jews, and they were wearing their full-scale Orthodox Jewish outfits. And I thought to myself, they're really running a risk. They're really running a risk, not from the police, but from random thugs. That scares me too. There are just too many scary things going on.
Yeah, you know what, though? I have a very serious question, Ben. Since you love chocolate milkshakes and you go to the desert a lot, have you ever had a date shake?
No, but it's funny that you asked that, Gary, because when I first started going down to the desert, very, very many of the stores in the desert were date shake stores, and now you hardly see any. They've been replaced.
Okay, I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
A date shake is like a milkshake made with dates and has very powerful laxative effects.
But it's really good. You'll be in the car. The key is, we used to go to the one on the outside. So heading out of the desert, the big, gosh, I can't remember what it's called. It's the
dinosaur. Big dinosaur.
Yeah. And so you go there, you get your date shake, and we knew we had to get home within a certain period of time after we finished the shake, because it was gonna happen. But the problem was, the shake is the best shake you will ever have, but you better wear a diaper. You better be prepared, because it will put on you.
We have a home in the desert near the date shake.
I've never even heard of this in my lifetime. This must be a regional thing.
They're so good. They're so good.
Ben, when you were back east, you used to have date shakes?
No, I did not. I only discovered date shakes when I came to California.
Right. So it's a West Coast thing. You guys are into the...
That's true. Well, it's a desert thing. Dates generally go in
desert. Yeah, I've never seen it anywhere else. Yeah.
Anyways, let's not digress. Somebody asked a curious question. I know it's not milkshakes, but Ben, what would your last meal be?
French toast, made by me. I am something you have omitted to mention for the last several lunches. I am also a chef, and I make very, very good steak, shrimp. A crab cake, salmon, but also eggs of any kinds and French toast. And I believe I make the best French toast in the world. I learned the recipe from my sacred wife, world's finest human being. And I believe she learned it from my sister, also a very fine human being. And they are really good. I will tell you, it's Pepperidge Farm bread, which you can only get in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. And I have it sent to me by FedEx by a very close friend. And beat up eggs and a little bit of milk or cream and cinnamon and vanilla, beat it up, put the bread in it, saute it in butter and Pam, and a few minutes later, you have the most, then you take it out, you put butter on it and lots of maple syrup, and not Aunt Jemima, that's too racist. And so I eat it with great pleasure, and my wifey, world's most saintly person, eats it along with me, and we're happy.
So there you are with Ben Stein's last meal. What about you, Gary?
Oh man, probably it would. Gosh, that's a tough one. Probably a double cheeseburger or something.
Oh,
It'd have to be a burger. Yeah, double bacon cheeseburger, something along those lines. Maybe a California burger with guacamole and bacon on. I don't know. A big fat burger. Go out American style.
Love American style. And by the way, if you just tuned in, you're all listening to World According to Ben Stein. I want to welcome all the latecomers. We've had a bunch of serious discussions tonight. But one of the most serious, and Ben brings up, is the fact that Siri is, in a sense, is tracking everything you say. Siri is, in a sense, tracking everything you do. And my phone is now going to say, hey, because I mentioned it, my phone's starting to flare. So I can't say that word. But they track you, Ben, and it's a terrifying thing. And I don't know how we fight back against it. I don't know what our recourse is.
We sing. If you miss me in the back of the bus, you can't find me nowhere. Oh, come on over to the front of the bus. I'll be sitting right there. I'll be sitting right there. I'll be sitting right there. Oh, come on over to the front of the bus. I'll be sitting right there. And we sing other protest songs. If you miss me in the picket line, you can't find me nowhere. Oh, come on over to the county jail. I'll be singing right there. I'll be singing right. Okay, never mind.
Were these popular songs, Ben? Can I ask you an honest question?
These are songs of protest, while you and your rich friends were shopping at Bergdorf Goodman. My wife and I were protesting for the rights of African Americans to vote.
I forgot to tell everybody I was actually doing that in 1962, and I saw Ben singing songs of protest. But I would think you would come up with some more famous protest songs, whether it be CCR. They had some awfully good "Fortunate Son."
These are the protest songs of the real people.
Well, everybody, you just learned something new on the World According to
La
Ben
Raza
Stein.
Unida no sempre vancará. Right, Gary?
Yes.
Gary, I'm actually curious, Gary, have you ever been to a protest?
I'm pretty sure I have. Oh, yeah. Well, I haven't been to one like willingly, but I've worked many things that turned into a protest while I was in the government. I worked the WTO that broke out in Seattle. Yeah, a couple others. Yeah, I've been entrapped in a couple of protests or riots. I don't know what you call them. I can't differentiate between protesting and rioting anymore, so I don't know. I have a hard time.
We have been to, my wife and I used to protest racial oppression, the war in Vietnam. And I want to say my wife's father was a career Army officer, went to West Point, was awarded the Silver Star and the Bronze Star and the Distinguished Service Medal. And he told me when he first met me, I want you to go out there and protest the war in Vietnam. That thing is a meat grinder. We're never going to win. We've got to get out. And he said, you protest every chance you get. And we did.
Somebody asked, by the way, if you knew Roger Stone, because I don't even think he worked for Nixon. I just think he was infatuated by Nixon.
I heard the name, but I didn't know him.
Yeah, I know he has the huge Nixon tramp stamp on his whole back. But I didn't think they ever crossed paths. But on that note, I want to thank everybody that's been joined us tonight. I want to apologize for the up and downs, the wackiness. I'm sitting in a room that's 90 degrees, but we did learn a lot tonight. We learned that Siri is a dangerous thing. Be careful what you search for. Be careful who you search for. And we were joined tonight. Gary, tell people where they could find you.
thesimplelifenow.com and the Simple Life podcast with Gary Collins, me.
And by the way, I just want to say something, Ben. For all the complaints we made, we have with Apple, Apple's what got us through this show, because if not for my iPhone,
I
wouldn't
love Apple. You see this thing here, my friend? What do you think
Yes.
this is? A pair?
Now I'm using my iPhone right now too, to using the internet on it.
So that's the problem, Ben. They get you in, and once they get you in, you sort of have to go with.
I love them. I love them.
Well, you don't like them tracking you on Siri. You don't like.
I don't have to like everything about everybody. The only person that's perfect is my wife.
And on that note, I want to thank everybody. Remember, you could find Ben at spectator.org. You could also find Ben on Parler at Ben Stein, and of course his email, benstein@substack.com. It's a Saturday night. We will see you here on Tuesday night, Ben. You've sung already, but if you want to see, I know you had prepared a song the other night, so if you wanted to go for it, go for it.
I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses. And the joy you sort of hurt my feelings now. I take away my food, so I don't think I'm going to sing. But good.